I mean, when he stepped back, I mean, it was like the parting of the sea. I mean, the whole field was wide open. It was unbelievable. My dad said like that he and I could run through that hole. I was like, I wouldn't have got 64 yards. I was like, maybe I got 5. He's like, I feel like you could have got a first down.
I feel like you could have gotten first.
Welcome to My God a Podcast. I'm Jim Wood. In this episode, John Powell and I review Georgia's 42-10 win over Auburn in the 127th edition of the Deep South's oldest rivalry. As always, remember to check out store.mygodapodcast.com to see our latest merch. And you can follow us on social media at My God a Podcast. Finally, we'd love for you to check out our presenting sponsor, Oxia Time, at oxiatime.com. That's AXIATIME.com. Now, let's join the conversation in progress. All right, Deep South's oldest rivalry ended up not being, well, it certainly wasn't close, at least by the end of the game. Kind of ran away with it. That was nice.
Yeah, it was. It was incredibly nice to have a bell-to-bell kind of domination from pretty much both sides of the ball. I mean, I think if you're outside looking in, unbiased observer, you're probably wondering why Georgia didn't beat these guys like 60-something.
Right.
And it could have easily been a shutout too, had they not had, some mistakes and some missed tackles. Like, it could have easily been a shutout. Yeah,
I mean, their points came off of the fumble at the beginning of the second half, and then just the poor tackling. I mean, like the touchdown never should have happened. But such is that. So how I have to ask how the pumpkin patch was. I saw some good pictures, some great photos came out of it. I know that.
Yes, always good photos at Bert's Pumpkin Farm. Yeah, I mean, it was great, man. It's it's kind of like an annual tradition for us around my wife's birthday. My wife's birthday is this week, so she always likes to go to the pumpkin patch sometime around her birthday. So that was this past weekend, and so we did that, and I think that our after spot is over at Amicalola Falls, at the conference center over there. And the last few years, like, that facility has been rented out. So
I remember that. I remember that last year.
Our overlook spot is not. We haven't been able to partake in that fully the last few years, but it's still a good view. And we did grab a table, but it was just in the full sun.
Okay, so it was rented out again this year, like it's been the best. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, another wedding. People in these fall weddings, man, come on.
Yeah, including my family, which is why my parents weren't at the game. But I digress.
Yeah, but yeah, it was a good time, man. A good time with family. Again, same folks we went to the beach with. So it's been a few weeks of
nice
family events.
Well, that's cool. I had a great day as well. Started off the morning. I got in Friday, stayed with my parents. Got to spend the evening with them Friday night, and then Saturday headed on over. Thanks to UGA Rugby Club for hosting us. We had some technical issues with our internet. So with our Dog Central live stream in the morning, so kind of is what it is. But got to meet all those folks. Got to see Chad Barker. He was doing some live painting. I had met him over,
That was cool.
It was very cool, and I had met him over at our buddy Mark Reagan's tailgate last year, and it was pretty cool because there's a story that I told him about Mark that actually inspired a painting that he's working on for Mark. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Okay.
So that was cool. Got to meet Governor of Dixie. He's the guy. Turns out he is the guy that was involved with UGA Rugby that Josh had been talking to work through all that stuff out. So definitely, if you need a place to park, they're doing that the rest of the year. So $20 to park at the Glass Building. It's right there at Millage in Baxter.
Okay.
So when we wrapped up there, John Smith came with me to the game. So we took my car over to park, and I will say we attempted to hit Raising Cane's on the way in. but it was so packed. The parking lot was so packed. I think people were like they do game day parking there, I guess. And so we are like, abort, abort. So we just drove past it. It was nuts. And
Ouch.
hit an over parked and hit Greg's tailgate. And there was a lot of people there. So there was at the tailgate doing some fundraising for Bulldogs battling breast cancer this past weekend. Keely Ringo's mom stopped by the tailgate. Got to meet Valkyrie dog and Natty dog. They came by. I'm sure I missed a ton of people, but it was fun. Our buddy Patrick was there with his wife Megan and their youngest.
Awesome.
And then he had his buddy there, so it was a good time. It was a good time. Swung by Hug Dog's tailgate after the dog walk. So we were like all over. With a 3:30 kickoff, we had kind of more time to operate. It was a good time. It was a good time.
Yeah. You can't imagine what it would have been if you had a night game, right?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, seriously. I probably wouldn't have survived. I needed it to be 3:30. Either that or you would have had to start the day much later.
I like it. I like it. It sounds like a good time, man. I'm super jealous. One of these days I'll get up there again.
It was fun. So John came and sat with me in our seats, and then so it was John and I, my sister and my nephew again, and then a couple of folks to round out the group. So fun time, good times were had. John got to meet Coach Trill. Coach Trill came and stopped by pregame. We snapped a picture. It was fun.
Excellent.
Speaking of Coach Trill, let's hit let's recap our picks really quick. So you have moved back into the lead. You are, I think, two overall picks ahead of me. So you went 500 this week. I went 3-5. Puts you back overall of the season at 29-19. I'm 27 and 21. So you gained some ground on me. So
I'll take it. I'll take it.
So thanks, Coach Chill, for checking this. Let's see. I just kind of thinking through. Let's see. We did so after this dominant win. We went back to number 1 in the AP poll. Stayed at number 2 in the coaches. Okay, so I've got some kind of like random, somewhat through the timeline of the game of when I did some rewatching. A couple of things that I called out or noticed. One thing that I had been wondering, and for some reason I had not said it to you, but I've been wondering this. Something that I felt like had been absent this year was that defensive line shift. You know what I'm talking about? When we would like shift before the snap and cause a false start. And that happened this game. And I don't remember if we've been doing that this season. I felt like it's been kind of absent. We definitely did it in this game. So there was a play where Jamon Dumas-Johnson actually like clapped. And then the whole line shifted.
Yeah, I saw that. I do remember that. I remember distinctly thinking to myself, oh yeah, they like to do that. I forgot about that.
Yeah. I'm still amazed that that's illegal. Especially with the clap. I feel like we kind of got away with one, especially with the clap, but I'm fine with that.
The clap maybe. Yeah, you're right about that. Yeah. Huh. Well, I guess we'll have to watch that space because that's like a simulated snap, right?
Right, exactly. That's kind of what I was thinking. But they didn't jump at the clap. It was when our guys all shifted right after the clap. So that was interesting. I don't know. We've been doing that shift thing for years and caused a lot of false starts. I don't know. Maybe this was the first, like, especially at home, right? Like, I mean, it was loud, like the environment. This was a nice, like 3:30 kickoff, loud Sanford Stadium environment. So I'm sure that kind of helped, with the noise to try something like that.
I'm glad that you mentioned our MVP of the game, the false start penalty.
Yeah, seriously. Hey, and something that I don't even remember if we talked about. I know I heard it get talked about some other places was, this was Auburn's first road game of the year. They'd been at home the entire season, so and with a freshman quarterback, I think they did struggle with the environment a little bit based on all the false starts.
Yeah, very much so.
Let's see. I did see, not to keep harping on it, but Ladd did have another muff punt. Kind of a bummer. So
we're gonna have to have a conversation about Ladd when it comes to our offense here.
Yeah. He did have a big punt return later in the game. So it is what it is. And at least we didn't lose the punt that he dropped, but got to shore that up.
He's had a season of the dropsies, that's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I did see. I was reading when I read Graham's 12 takeaways. I think he had called out like at receiver. I think he only had one. I think he had like 6 targets and 5 catches or something like that. But the one that he didn't catch was the one where he was. I don't know exactly what happened. Should have been a touchdown pass. Should have been a long touchdown pass. And either he was overthrown, or I've seen some folks talk about he kind of had a stutter step as well. So I don't know.
Yeah, I'm. There were a couple of those deep balls. There was one to Ladd, and the other one was I want to say I can't remember who it was, but he had a couple of long balls that were very clearly walk-in touchdowns.
Yeah.
But I'm putting those on the quarterback. Sorry.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I forget the other one. I think the other one was Brock, I think.
Well, Brock had another one where that Stetson just like skied it. Yeah, I think he did have one. You're right, but there definitely was one that he had to Brock that like just went way too high for Brock Bowers.
Yeah. And yeah, sorry. I didn't mean to indicate that it was Brock's fault. I meant
Yeah,
another overthrow. Yeah.
yeah, for sure.
Um,
I, I don't
okay.
know. I don't know what's going on there. I heard some rumblings that he was knocked up after the Missouri game. I saw Seth Emerson had
Mhm.
tweeted out something about that today, talking about how there were rumblings that he was knocked up, had some knocks after the Missouri game, and then Kirby Smart said something about how he was kind of battling through some things.
Yeah.
Um, so like maybe there is something to the Stetson's hurt. I don't know how to what degree. I mean, it sounds like it's almost the way that Kirby's making it out to be, which is Kirby speak, right?
Right.
Um, the way that he's making it out to be is that it's like typical. Every football player at this point in the season
Right.
has got some kind of injury, right?
Right.
So
Well, I think Stetson seemed to be kind of making it out to be that way as well. But I mean, I do remember there was a shot he took in the Missouri game where I remember he kind of got up and was kind of moving his shoulder around a bit. And then,
correct,
yeah,
correct.
what I saw, what Seth was saying was that it looked like Stetson came out kind of early and was trying to loosen up his shoulder before the game.
Mhm.
So yeah, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. So yeah, don't know how much. I mean, he definitely has looked a little off. Although this game was much better, well, at least in the second half. I mean, the first half, I know there was like under 50 yards passing, or not even lower in the first half.
Yeah,
But definitely turned it around in the second half.
it was yeah. He turned it around for sure. I think that it's one of those things where I really wish and really hope, and there are some games on the schedule coming up where we're going to need them to be a first half team
Yeah.
instead of relying on being a second half team, because I don't want to get into a situation where our offense is struggling against a fast paced attack.
Hmm. Yeah, agreed. There's somewhere that I want to get to relatively quickly, but I have one question for you before we get to that. And it's like,
Okay.
what the heck was Harson doing when he called that fake punt in a scoreless game in their own territory?
Oh my gosh, dude. I feel like everybody in the stadium was like, man, that guy's an idiot. Like,
Like, I can't believe he did that. And like something that like I didn't really remember from being there at the game. But in watching it back, like it was like like when the offense does, like I call it like a check with me play, where like the offense lines up, everyone stops and looks at the sideline, waits for the call, and then they line up, to get the play call, and then they do it. Like they did that on the fake punt. Like the special teams, the punt unit was lined up, they went and looked at the sideline, and then they ran a fake punt. Like talk about telegraphing it. It's weird,
right. Yeah, that was just insane. The whole thing was insane.
but at least we stopped it. I mean, we've been susceptible to the fake punt, and it was a great play by Nolan Smith. I mean, I think like we were kind of overloaded. Like there was a hole there. Like we had fewer guys on that side of the line, and
Hmm.
that's why they went for it. But great play, great individual effort by Nolan Smith to make the stop. So that was good to see. Good to see.
Yeah, I think there was it the last game that we talked about this? Was it Missouri that he had an open field tackle that if he did and made the tackle, like
Mm,
uh, like
yeah,
he did in this game. So that was nice to see.
yeah, for sure. So I guess where I was kind of wanting to go was to talk a little bit about the run game. and I guess even maybe specifically the offensive line. On the side of the backs, right, where Kendall Milton went down with apparently a groin injury, and kind of in steps Branson Robinson, and we had wondered what would happen if we saw Dejon Edwards get featured, and so I don't know how much some of this stuff happened because of Milton's injury or what the plan was going in or not, but between Edwards and Robinson, they were phenomenal, and we got to see. I think I don't know. Maybe you should rant about the offensive line more often, John, because they responded.
I agree. I mean, I think that I chalk it up to the fact that they figured things out in the second half of the Missouri game, and maybe this
Yep.
coaching staff has just figured out what's going on. So, um, I mentioned it, like we the offensive line is good at certain things, and Graham was very very good at calling attention to that, and it makes sense given what we've seen, because I believe that they did a lot of those things. I think it was gap blocking, and I know that George Foster had some good things to say about this as well. So it was like the gap runs and the zone runs.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, I mean they very clearly were doing the things that they do well.
Yeah, I think one thing I did see again from what some of Graham wrote was actually like it looked like one of the key things was they actually did better on the zone runs. So it wasn't like we were doing like 80-20 or anything like that. It was still, I think it was closer to 50-50 ish, but they had success with the zone scheme,
Yeah,
which is good, right? Like, because now if they can do both.
yeah. I mean, yeah, and it could just be that any given week you have a bad performance or whatever. It was a road game last time, so like I think that there's a lot of factors that go into it. I'm just glad that they stepped up and played, and I would love to be wrong about this offensive line and this offensive line coach. I hope that they over make me eat my words on questioning them. I will say that to do this against an Auburn team is going to be a little bit different than doing it against, say, a Tennessee or a dare I say, Alabama in the SEC championship game, although they looked a little shaky this weekend too.
Wow.
Um,
Yeah.
but I just think that it was Auburn, which in any given year is like, well, it's still Auburn, but this year in particular, I feel like, because literally every Auburn person that I know avoided talking about this game like the plague, and
Mm.
anytime it came up, they just shook their head and rolled their eyes, like they're just so dejected, man. Like just so dejected.
Yeah, they are. They are. I had mentioned Patrick Game. He brought his buddy with him who's an Auburn guy, and
Oh,
he
brave soul.
right. That's what Greg said when I asked him if I could bring an Auburn guy to the tailgate.
Golly.
But I think he was just being realistic. As we were talking through everything before the game. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, man. I mean, I did want to shout out Alex Garnto. Hopefully that he wanted us to show some love to the O line after after that performance. So
Yeah.
hopefully that did it.
I'll
Um,
put some respect on their name. I'll put some respect on their name. Especially, so here's the other thing though. Like, the offensive line performed well. And so like kind of in a situation like, when you have a running back, or sorry, a quarterback that the team is confident in,
mhm,
um, everybody kind of performs better, right?
right,
If you have a quarterback that's in the game that you don't feel super confident about, like you have a tendency to underperform, right?
right.
But I think the same can also be said for the running backs too. Not to say that the running backs have been awful, but like there was a very clearly there was a different feeling,
Mhm.
and I'm guessing that Josh's stats are going to bear that out. I haven't seen the deep dive on the stats just yet, but um, I believe that we have our running back one and running back two based on that particular game. I'm hoping that the coaches see the success that we had in the run game. I mean, we rushed for over 300 yards combined,
Yeah,
and the bulk of those yards came from these two players, Branson Robinson and Dejon Edwards. Like it was the coming out party for the two young bucks,
yeah.
and You and I have been talking about Dacian Edwards. Like I've been talking about Dacian Edwards since last season.
Yeah.
Um, Branson Robinson has shown flashes this year, and from what I understand, it's like part of the reason that he hasn't been more featured is because of his run blocking ability or whatever, or
Yeah.
sorry, pass protection.
Right.
Um, but those two guys stepped up and played really well. And I'm hoping that they continue to get a chance, particularly against Vanderbilt, then against Florida, and I'm really excited to see what this team can do against Tennessee down the road.
Yeah, it's interesting if you just look at the snap counts. So Edwards had 25 snaps, so did McIntosh, but then Branson Robinson right there with 19 snaps played. Yeah,
Which
man.
I don't remember what the snaps were for Dejan in the week before, but I believe it was a good bit higher, right?
I'd have to check. I don't recall either. More snaps this week than last week. You mean?
I believe so.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I feel like it was more because last week he didn't really like until that last drive. I mean, like he was in the game, but then he totally dominated that last drive, like played that whole drive against Missouri. But here, I mean, he was there. I mean, he was in there like the whole game. So I will never know whether that was a plan or not. Without like if Kendall Milton doesn't go down, we'll never
yeah,
know. But I mean, Milton only played 5 snaps before he got injured. So
yeah. I don't know. I don't know what's going on with Kendall, man. I feel like he's always been hurt. Like it's just like
yeah,
the injury bug just seems to hit the poor kid
yeah.
just when he's starting to come back, and then all of a sudden he gets another injury. And if I remember correctly, it was the groin, right? He had a
Yeah,
groin
groin. That's
injury.
what I saw. Yeah.
So that's another one of those injuries, kind of like a hamstring. That's that's not it's gone. It's like a nagging injury, right? Like that's one of those things that can continue to come up. I
Yeah.
can't remember what running back it was didn't we have a running back like Sonny Michel or No Sean or something like that always had like a groin injury that was just constantly bothering him?
Sony always had something, but he would tend to play through it,
Yeah.
whatever it was. But yeah, it could have been it. So those snap counts were there, but the carry distribution was very different. So you had Robinson and Edwards both with 12 carries, and then McIntosh only had 8 carries in the game. But so yeah, Robinson 98 yards net, Edwards 83, Edwards with 3 touchdowns on the ground, and Branson with that 1 touchdown there at the end of the game.
Yeah.
It was. I mean, it
Uh,
felt like running back university again. It felt like RBU, and the school put out a great video on Twitter actually of after Branson Robinson scored that touchdown, they've got him on the sideline saying RBU baby, RBU. It's pretty sweet.
that's awesome. Yeah. I think there was another one. I think it was Kenny McIntosh's touchdown,
Hmm.
if I remember correctly. There was a run that Dejan had where he got down to like the 1 yard line or something like that, and I feel like Kenny McIntosh punched it in. It was
Yeah.
just another like we had the situation in the previous game where I think Kendall Milton scored the touchdown,
Hmm.
and like I said before, like Dejan Edwards did all the hard work for that particular touchdown setup, and he didn't get the reward. So he should have
Right.
had 4 touchdowns, in my opinion. I just
Right.
kept screaming at the TV. I was like, "Give the kid his touchdown! Like cannonball him again! Like give it to him!"
I remember you texting me that actually when that happened during the game. That was pretty funny. Cool thing on that McIntosh touchdown was Brock Bauer is actually like motioned into basically like a fullback, and he was like the fullback on that play and was a lead
Yeah,
blocker. That's pretty cool. I don't know. I like a good fullback.
you like a good fullback play, yeah.
And then how about like so? How was it? I mean, I know it's apparent on the replay, but I'm just going to say on the Stetson Bennett 64-yard touchdown scamper, like he was running right to where I sit in that end, like that's the end zone he came to. I mean, when he stepped back, I mean, it was like the parting of the sea. I mean, the whole field was wide open. It was unbelievable. My dad said like that he and I could run through that hole. I was like, I wouldn't have got 64 yards. I was like, maybe I got 5. He's like, I feel like you could have got a first down.
I feel like you could have gotten first.
But like,
That's
holy
great.
cow, it was so open, and man, like what a run! I just love that for Stetson. Looked like he was having fun out there.
Yeah, and if he'd have connected on a couple of those deep balls, he would have hit the magical, 250 yards
Right.
passing and 1 rushing touchdown.
Yeah.
Um, Yeah, I just remember watching that. Like, did you ever play NCAA football like on the video games on like on Xbox or whatever?
Oh yeah.
If you ever played those games, whenever you broke off a long run, I just remember, was it Brad Nessler or somebody would always be like,
Mhm.
he can scoot.
Yeah. Nice. Yes. Yes.
That's exactly what I was saying. That's exactly what I was saying. As soon as I saw him take off into that green space, I was like, he can scoot.
Oh man. Yeah. I don't know. So yeah, I mean, I guess we talked about it, right? So a little slow start again, but by the end of the game, offense, got it going. The defense was really going all game. I mean, like we talked about, right? The one missed tackle led to the touchdown, and the field goal was on the short field from the one Stetson fumble at the beginning of the second half. But I'm excited about Bear Alexander. Just to call out another player, like he looked really good in this game. He's someone who wasn't playing much early and has really started to come on. So that's
Mm-hmm.
that's encouraging. And man, Malachi almost had another like that pick that he was almost a pick, and like it was the right call. I mean, he had it, but the ground knocked it out. Would have been it looked very similar to his pick against Oregon, kind of diving back for
Agreed.
Starks,
Yeah.
but it would have been a heck of a play. But ultimately, I think they made the right call.
Yeah, Bear stepping up, getting an opportunity. It's definitely something that we need from with him, and then I think Logue and uh, Stackhouse.
Mm-hmm.
Those guys need to step up for us with whenever Jalen Carter's not in the game. Like we need those guys to be completely on their A game for sure.
Yeah, yeah, and it was good to see. We when we did our preview, it had sounded like initially that Smile London was going to be okay, but we knew by kickoff we knew he wasn't going to play. But you did not have
Mm-hmm.
Smile London and did not have Tresman Marshall. Ryan Davis stepped up. He looked good. And he's a guy that hasn't really had a whole lot of opportunities and had been battled some injuries himself over his career. But he stepped into that starting role and he looked good out there. So also encouraging.
I agree, and you mentioned Smile. Like obviously, he's a big part of the defense, so having him available would have been even better here. So
Yeah.
you like to see that two studs on the defense were out, and we were still able to completely dominate them on the defensive side. I mean, you look at that's probably the biggest takeaway for me was just how impotent it was. Just how impotent the offense that Auburn was putting on there had.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like, we knew that everything was going to you made the comment that everything was going to, like, as Robbie Ashford goes, so goes Auburn. And you were right. And I mean, he ran around a lot, I guess, and he got some yards rushing. But I think most of them were all on kind of like in a prevent play. But like,
Yeah.
I mean, he had to throw the ball away so much, like, so it's like
Uh-huh.
it gets kind of to the Kirby's comments around like, pressure being more important than sex, I guess, kind of thing. And I think we saw that in this game.
Yeah, so I remember. Do you remember me talking about that? Like,
Yeah.
I knew that he was going to be trying to get outside, or at least either trying to by design or having to because he was being pursued to death.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I didn't see them having a whole lot of success laterally trying to get outside the numbers on us like that. That's just something that I felt like we were going to completely own. I mean, now literally the guy like it's almost like he was like Justin Fields. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
if the read wasn't there, like try to
Mm,
scramble and
gotcha.
try to
Yeah.
bounce it outside. Like it really kind of just smacked of the Justin Fields kind of takes that we would have. Is that
Right.
if it's not there, if you look once, look twice, nothing's there. All right, better run.
Yeah.
And he just took off to the sideline trying to get outside, and our guys are just way too fast for that. So um, definitely expected that. I didn't expect it on quite the pace that it did. So
Yeah.
it's crazy, man. He was. I remember thinking that I was like, golly, this guy's favorite play is to throw it to the sideline.
Yeah. Yeah. I know so many times he'd roll out and then he just like throw it over their head.
Like, did the guy have a brother or something in the crowd that he was trying to hit? Like, hey, buddy.
I don't know. Maybe he's trying to throw to Jake Fromm's brother over there on the sideline. I don't know.
Jake Fromm was there too. I saw a picture of him on Instagram. He was there.
Yeah, the whole Fromm family was there because
Okay.
of Tyler Fromm.
Is it Tyler, right?
Yeah,
Oh, okay. That explains it. I didn't even think about that. I didn't put two and two together. I was
yeah.
wondering why Jake didn't have any UGA paraphernalia on.
Yeah. I hadn't seen any. I didn't see that. Um, what did surprise me on their offense was Tank Bigsby's stat line. 19 yards on 10 carries.
So that's the thing that every Auburn fan that I am connected with, like that's like one of the first questions I ask them is like, is Tank hurt? Like,
Mm.
how do you feel about Tank? And like they just get so upset. Like it really is. It truly is. Like you want to talk about a head coach that comes in and hey, we have this superstar that like really has been a problem for the SEC for the last several years. Like the he just fell off a cliff.
Yeah,
Like how do you underutilize or how do you like get the least amount of production out of one of the like historically better play offensive weapons in the SEC? How does that happen? And to
yeah,
me, that's just the tip of the iceberg in terms of the fireable offenses that this guy has brought to Auburn. And it
mm.
would shock me to see him still employed at Auburn at the end of the season. I think was it Dustin, someone in the Dog Central text thread that said, um, I wonder, I wonder if Harsin knows how much how much an Uber costs from Athens to Auburn.
Right, right.
Like
Oh man.
just leave him on the tarmac when you get home.
Yeah, yeah. I don't see him lasting. Don't fall for the Barning Hard tweets because there was already a hoax saying that he was fired. But yeah, check your sources on the Twitter. But yeah, I don't. I mean, I don't think this was quite big enough of a blowout, I guess, to see the immediate firing. But I don't see him lasting the season. And yeah, I mean, and doing that with Tank Bigsby, so, I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's their offensive line. They just don't feel like they can run. But man, 10 carries for a guy like that is a head scratcher. I mean, granted, it wasn't working, but still,
Yeah.
that's just seems weird. I mean, I feel like he's one of those kind of like volume carry guys that he kind of gets going. You get him lathered up kind of deal,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
10 carries is that's a head scratcher. I don't know. Anyway.
The only thing I can muster or think of is that they just felt like they needed to throw the ball, and maybe I don't know, man. I got
Yeah.
nothing.
Yep.
I got nothing.
Yep. Fair. Well, before we wrap up, I do want to remind everyone that season 3 of My Gotta Podcast is presented by Oxia Time. So Oxia Time is a custom watch company, and if you want to commemorate the Dogs' national championship in style, you've got to check out their Georgia National Championship timepieces. John, I wore mine to the game again this weekend. Got a lot of good compliments and feedback on it. One thing that I've noticed and that I told John Canaris, the owner, is that I've actually enjoyed having the freedom from my Apple Watch on game days. I'm not sitting there, like checking my notifications the entire game, and I'm like enjoying those around me. I'm enjoying the game, paying attention to the game. And like I'm walking the distance I'm walking regardless. So I don't know, it's something that I've kind of enjoyed the last couple of home games. So it's
Yeah,
been pretty cool.
you don't have the need for the constant data, the
Yeah.
constant data points coming in.
Yeah.
So I get that too. I wore mine this weekend as well. I had my game day apparel on. I asked my wife before we went to the pumpkin patch. I said, are we like gonna like seriously do family pictures again? Because we did some at the beach, and we have like formal fall pictures
Right.
like later this month or whatever. I was like, are we going to do this? She's like, no, I'm just going to take pictures of the kids. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to wear my game day apparel. And she goes, that's fine. And so
Yeah.
I had my watch and everything. And, there wasn't a whole lot of Georgia folks. I feel like maybe everybody was at the game, but,
Right.
my brother-in-law was like, oh man, that's so cool. He's very jealous.
Yeah, for sure. So exclusively for our listeners, you can get 10% off these timepieces by using the code MyGottaPodcast at checkout. So make sure to go check them out at axiatime.com. That's AXIATIME.com. All right, let's see. I don't know, any other kind of lasting thoughts, final impressions on on this I don't know, dismantling of Auburn, I guess is the best way I can think of it.
I guess the only thing that we haven't talked about, and maybe maybe it was next on the list, but Thorson,
Mm,
dude, the guy is punting lights out.
yeah.
I remember thinking there was a punt that we had where I kind of wanted them to go for it because the distance was just like, it
Mm,
was one of those like no man's land of like punting, because you might net like 10, 15 yards if you kick it into the end zone or whatever.
mhm.
But man, he sky high kicked it and it landed like on the 5 yard line, 4 or 5 yard line or something like that.
Yeah.
The guy had no other option but to catch it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No, he is playing great. Yeah, there was a question mark heading into the season, right? You know, how we're going to look at punter, and that's definitely been answered by him.
Yep. Yep. So that was the only other thing that I can recall. Yeah, like I said, I think that's the only other thing that I can recall. But if this team can figure out, the deep threat, like
Yeah.
being able to consistently connect, and I think that, to be fair to everyone, AD Mitchell is one of those guys. Arian Smith is one of those guys. As those guys continue to get better and get healthier, um,
Yeah.
yeah, you hope that you'll have that option coming down the road, because we're probably going to need it, because we need the opposing teams to respect the deep ball from Stetson, because I don't know. I didn't necessarily notice it because, like I said, the offensive line did really well. I felt like Stetson had all day to throw a lot of these things, which is
Yeah.
part of the reason why it was so frustrating.
Mm.
My wife and daughter were like, "Why are you so angry?" Like, because Stetson just missed a wide open man. Like, he missed him here, missed him there. Like, what the heck's going on?
I do think I think you and Kim were like kindred spirits on that, because Kim was watching at home and she was texting me throughout the game. She was like on edge the whole game, and like after the game, she was like, "That was so stressful," and I was like, "I think I calmed down," when it was like 28-3 or something like that, and she's like, "I never calmed down." So it
That's
was a stressful
funny.
ride for her. You know, you
We need, we need to add her to the text thread.
Amazing. Um, so a couple of things on what you just talked through. Like first off, on needing a deep threat, etc. Like so Arian Smith and AD Mitchell did play, but very low snap count. So let's see, Arian Smith only played 6 snaps. AD played 4 snaps. Blaylock actually only played 6 snaps. So definitely working those guys back in. I feel like I didn't even remember. Again, I was in the stadium and I like at the game. I didn't even notice that AD came in. Honestly,
I mean,
like full disclosure. Yeah.
I didn't realize that either.
So I don't think he had any targets. From what it sounded like, he was kind of like decoy, just kind of like running some routes. But yeah, so that'll definitely help. One thing I guess maybe one thing I do want to call out, because this is so you and I both were on there, or you were on there at least for a little bit. So we did a Dog Central After Dark, like 10 o'clock Saturday night live stream,
Oh
and
Lord.
and what one of the things that Josh had brought up, and this is something that I mentioned, like being in the stadium. I was not on Twitter a whole lot during the game. Like, I guess apparently when the offense wasn't clicking on all cylinders in the first half, the put in Carson Beck crowd kind of piped up on Twitter. Apparently, did you see any of
No,
that? Because I was totally oblivious to it. I found that out from like Josh and John.
I didn't see anybody calling for Carson Beck.
Okay, good. So maybe it's just that we're following the right people and they're not.
Yeah, seriously. I don't know. I I didn't see a whole lot of that. I mean, I feel like I maybe saw it because he was talking about it.
Right.
But yeah, no, I don't think that. I don't think that's like an irrelevant thing.
Agreed.
We're so far beyond the Stetson should not be quarterback situation.
Yeah, seriously. Agreed. Cool.
Sorry, guys. Get used to it.
Yeah.
Just,
I mean, he's the guy.
just scream at your TV like I do.
Fair. What else? I mean, I actually watched a decent amount of other. I mean, I sat and watched the Alabama Texas A&M game. I mean, and we were both watching that and talking about it. I mean, that was a crazy kind of end to the day. I was pretty
Okay.
shocked by that.
Have we completely pivoted off of the Auburn review and now we're just talking about the weekend?
What do you? Unless you have anything else that
I
you
don't have
wanted
it.
to say,
I really don't, but like
I
I
don't
just want
either.
to make sure before I go down this rabbit hole.
Go
So
rabbit hole, engage.
in I have never seen an Alabama quarterback in the last several years play as awfully as Milroe did in that game.
Mm.
You want to talk about, like, when I say we need to have a deep threat, like we need to have teams afraid of Stetson to throw the ball deep and connect on a consistent basis, because if this guy Milroe continues to play like he did against A&M, and frankly, I have seen him do this as well. They showed up a stat board of him and Bryce Young during the game, and if you look at the numbers, they're pretty consistent. Like, they're both completing passes, blah blah blah. They've got touchdowns. I think he had more interceptions or something like that. But like, the one glaring thing that I saw that was the biggest difference between Bryce Young and Milroe is the fact that Milroe, his yards per attempt were so much lower, like 3 yards lower.
Mm.
And that's what I was noticing when I was watching that game, because I wanted to watch and see, number one, like I wanted to watch the Jimbo meltdowns.
Yeah.
And I also wanted to just see what this quarterback was, because frankly, I feel like that every other aspect of that team we can control and can contain. I do have one question that I'll get to in just a second about that, but but Milroe was so pedestrian in that game. I mean, he almost threw four interceptions. I think he threw 3 interceptions or something. Like, it was
Yeah.
awful. Like, he played so bad, and that was against a fairly, like, at least so far to this point in the season, a fairly pedestrian A&M team, a
Yeah.
fairly pedestrian looking A&M team. Like, there was no serious threat. Like, I'm very curious what's going to happen when Alabama and Tennessee play this week. John and I have been texting back and forth about that. I get that people don't want to see Tennessee get any sort of like confidence boost by beating Alabama, because I know
Mm.
that's would be a big statement for Heupel. But I believe that we can beat both of these teams, and I don't care. I want to crush Tennessee's hopes and dreams when they play us in Athens.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I kind of want Tennessee to win, but really don't care who wins either way.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, man, I think that there's, from where I sit, from what I've seen from everybody thus far, the SEC is our ocean right now, and
Mm-hmm.
we need to take this opportunity and continue to get better. I think, if we're being honest, like, the quarterback and offensive line are probably the weakest positions right now on the team. We need to see consistently.
Mm-hmm.
And if we can continue to get better at the wide receiver position, continue to get better at the offensive line position, I don't see any. There's nobody left on our schedule that really, or on our potential schedule, that really scares me. The only team that's out there that's floating around that kind of scares me right now in the top 25 is Ohio State and Clemson.
Okay. Yeah. Not on the schedule. I mean, for me, I feel like the back half of our schedule is shaping up to be a lot more difficult. I mean, we're about to hit a stretch, right?
Right.
I mean, Florida, they kind of are what they are, but then we got Tennessee, we got Mississippi State, we got Kentucky. Although Kentucky chopping off, I mean, they didn't have Levis against South Carolina. I still expected them to win even without him, but they didn't. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, I mean, the back half of the schedule looks a lot tougher. I mean, I mean, Tennessee does worry me the most. I mean, I think of the teams that are on the schedule, Tennessee and Mississippi State.
Yeah.
Those are the biggest tests left on the schedule as it's written down right now. So,
Well, before the season, we did or at least I can't remember if you did or not, but I did pencil in the trip to Starkville as a potential
Yeah, that was actually when we had John on. When we had John Smith on, that was I think that was his answer of the trap game. That was the one we kind of all landed on.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
We'll see, man. But it's going to be interesting. I'm excited to watch. At least we'll have some entertainment to watch because we're playing Wanderbilt. Wah, wah, Wanderbilt.
yeah, yeah. We'll be back to preview them soon. Well,
Agreed. I'm trying to think if there was anything else. Oh, Kansas lost. That was fun.
yeah, yeah. We talked about that on DC After Dark. We're kind of thinking like because someone asked like should they even drop in the rankings, and they didn't. They actually held at least in the AP poll, they stayed right where they were, which I think is right because there was two undefeated teams, and it was a close game. I mean, it was a
Yeah.
7-point game, and it stayed a 7-point game like the whole time, or
Yeah.
it finished a 7-point game. I don't know.
We'll see. There's a lot of undefeateds out there right now. This could be a season that might. I don't know. At some point, there's going to be some carnage that's going to take place. I'll just say that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Cool, man. Well, 127th installment, the Deep South's oldest rivalry. They couldn't hang. We didn't think they could, and they certainly couldn't. I mean, they blew. I will say we didn't talk about like our actual score predictions. You were a lot closer than I was. Let me call that out really quick. You're actually pretty close. You had 45-17, so not
Yeah,
too far off.
I like it.
I had 30-17. I loved the when I was listening back when I like edit these things, like, I'm sitting there like trying to talk you down and like, John, things are fine, like we're good, all this kind of stuff. And then like you predicted this huge win, and I was like, I had like a much closer game. Didn't really make sense. But so my bad.
I was told I don't have to be rational.
This is fair. Yeah,
I can bitch and moan about the offensive line as long as we keep winning.
yeah, man. I mean, on that note, how about like the regular season is halfway over. We have reached the midpoint. 12 game schedule. We're 6-0. We're halfway. It's crazy that we're to that point already.
Now I know it doesn't feel like it though. It feels like we just have like a whole other season left.
Well, in this day and age, I guess that's kind of true.
but here we are halfway through the season.
Yep.
Now I'm a little bit sad.
Well, hopefully we've got more than just the regular season to worry about, and we'll cross that when we get there. But it's got I don't know. This team has the potential. I think we're not yet what we thought we were after the first two games, but I think we still can be that good. We just got to get a couple things back on track.
Agreed. We'll tee it up here soon.
All right, man. Sounds good.
Go Dogs.
Go Dogs.